Hi, this is Mark Lynn, and I want to welcome you to the Business Continuity Series. Today, we'll be discussing what can I do about the new threats to my business continuity with our special guest, Mark Jordan. Mark Jordan is the VP of Technologies for Unitrends. Unitrends is a Kaseya company that increases uptime and confidence in a world in which IT professionals must do more with less. Unitrends leverages high availability hardware and software engineering, cloud economics, enterprise power with consumer-grade design, and customer-obsessed support to natively provide all-in-one enterprise backup and continuity. Welcome, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate the time today, and there's no doubt what we're experiencing right now has certainly exposed some of the challenges businesses have with business continuity.
Well, it really has. Obviously we're in the middle of some really trying times, and you're starting to see the rapid rise of the remote workplace, and people, that were caught by surprise by business continuity are now trying to figure out, what do I do next? What do I have to do so that I'm prepared for the next pandemic, the next force majeure, the next act of God, if you will. So it's both a scary and time, as well as a time for that has some opportunity for some companies to be better prepared next time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mark. If you're looking at what a lot of companies are doing around the world right now, is they're basically building out a solution on the fly because they have to. And what they're doing really needs to evolve into a permanent solution for them, because we don't know, what's going to happen in the future. We don't know how long our current working conditions are going to last, if it's going to be weeks or months. We don't know if it's going to roll around where we have to do the same thing a year from now. So it's really important for businesses to build out a solution today that they can then take into the future. And when we talk about business continuity, we're not talking just workloads and data access. We're talking about everything in terms of the safety of the employees, the ability to communicate with each other, how the response teams are built. I mean, there's just so much to think about, and I'm really happy that that NetSync's out there doing that for their customers.
Yeah, I think one of the things we're seeing is exactly what you just alluded to, is that it's the complexity of it all. It's so much more grander than everybody really expects. And that's led to some disappointment, or, people not really feeling good about how things transpired. And now they're looking for new ways to improve that. And it kind of leads into my first question, which is, how do I protect the data of the remote workers?
Well, I mean, that's something that many companies, they've always had remote workers, and they have workers who travel and they carry laptops and that, but they really haven't thought too much about it, because the majority of their business has really been on premise in office locations, and now that they're moving to a remote workforce, they understand the cost that they could suffer if they were to lose data, the risk that they have. I mean, you think about all the remote workers now, they're certainly much more apt to be attacked by hacks, malware, things like that. So one of the things that we've seen a lot in the industry right now is just a huge push for the remote workers to back up their data directly to a cloud location. And I understand that businesses are out there, they're using software as a solution apps like Office 365, and they're using maybe they're using G Suite from Google, maybe they're using Salesforce, and they think, hey, all our data is already up in the cloud, it's being replicated in the cloud, but in reality, that's not always the case. Their data isn't all there. They still run a risk of losing data, whether it's through malware or user error or something like that. So we're seeing a big push toward protecting that endpoint data, that user data, into a direct to cloud backup. And then when you look at O365 or G Suite, Salesforce, once again we're seeing a push to protecting that data as well, and being able to copy it off to another cloud location, just so that you have that redundancy that we've always been used to with our on-prem data, but we need that redundancy with our end-user data that's sitting out there and being created as well.
Yeah, that unstructured data out there, companies are pretty good at backing up structured data, the database, et cetera, replication, taking snaps, virtually whatever it might be. But where people have really struggled, and what we hear a lot is it's the unstructured data, it's the spreadsheets, the stuff on the web, the box stuff, and all that data is not being backed up, and when it gets lost, it's gone, and it may represent a great deal of work, or it might be some critical data for the organization.
Absolutely, and I think that you used a really good word there when you said struggle, right? It has to be easy to deploy. It has to be easy to manage. And when you have workers that are dispersed all around the world, how does an IT staff actually manage that? And so when they start looking at cloud solutions or direct to cloud data backup solutions, it has to be very easy to deploy, very easy to manage. And the last thing you said when you're talking about struggling is just knowing that losing that data could actually result in hours and hours of trying to reconstruct things, and no company can afford to go through that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So what new security threats to the edge data should I be managing against?
Well, I think we all know that malware, ransomware, that's a threat everywhere, right? And one of the things that we believe in from a data protection and disaster recovery aspect is being able to actually detect that ransomware early, being able to take a look at the data that's being protected on a daily or an hourly basis, and being able to notice if there's anomalies in that data and be able to determine very early on whether malware might be present. Now that you have so many remote workers, I think that's even more important, because even though they're remote, they still may be, many, of course, are still accessing data that are in your on-prem data centers, and it's possible that they're more at risk of actually transferring some sort of malware into those environments. So you have to have the ability to detect that early and be able to find ways to remedy that before it takes over your environment. I think the other thing that we're looking at from a cloud and from a software as a service um, backup, you think about something like Office 365. You have people out there that are using the same password on literally everything that they log into on the internet, right? So it's so easy for them to get compromised and to lose data in that way. So when you start thinking about Office 365 and the ability to protect that data, one of the things that we believe in is also being able to protect and basically find out if a password or a username has been compromised. Do dark web monitoring to see if something is out there, and I think that's very critical as well.
So that's interesting, Mark. So speaking about the on-premise data center, how can I ensure residency with limited access to the data center like during the pandemic?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Mark. And one thing that we've noticed, and it doesn't surprise us, but it is something that may be a little bit surprising in the industry, is that we have many customers that are using a cloud location, a Unitrends cloud location for disaster recovery, the ability to spin up workloads and be able to you know operate in a cloud location when their normal data center is not available. With what's been happening here the last few weeks, we've noticed that many customers are looking to spin those workloads up now because the cloud location actually has more resources. It's a little bit easier to get to from in terms of handling the load that that the external or the remote employees are putting on it. And I think that it's a really valuable thing right now for those customers to have that cloud location for their data, that second data. Now, one of the things that as we move forward for customers who are putting that, or businesses that are putting that into place, if they have a kind of a replicated a data center in a cloud location, the ability to actually test the access to those critical workloads is going to be critical, right? I mean, we just talked earlier here just a few minutes ago that one of the challenges that businesses are struggling through right now is that they're basically putting together a business continuity plan on the fly and trying to implement one that's on the fly. Taking these lessons and learn from them, and knowing that they have the ability to actually get data offsite, test the recoverability of workloads, how quickly can they bring an application back online if they need to. All that is going to be critical in the future. And for those businesses that have it today, I think they're finding that it's pretty valuable that they had put that in place before this all happened.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, interesting. We're kind of seeing the same thing. We're seeing that people are struggling with business continuity, and they're really taking a review and kind of a look back, even though we're not that far along. We still got, so a couple more weeks of this pandemic left, but they're already starting to look back and say, look, yeah, in our business continuity, we should have been better prepared. Here's what we should have done. And that kind of, here's some steps we need to take, and more in a remediatory effect, but also here are some steps we need to take so that next time when it comes along, we have a better process, and leadership is aware of what we're doing, and they have some assurance that what we're doing will actually work and safeguard the company, its employees, and its customers. And that kind of leads into this another question I have, and that is, so how can I automatically mitigate common backup failures? How do I automatically mitigate business continuity and backup failures?
Well, I think that's something that every business is looking for today, right? I mean, we've got a world where IT teams are asked to do more and more, basically more and more tasks, where they might not be deeply trained on any one individual task, right? They have to be very broad in their ability to do things, kind of what we call multifunction IT people. So the more you have products out there that can kind of self-heal and take care of problems before you have to get to some sort of an IT technologist to actually mitigate any of the problems, the better, right? One of the advantages that Unitrends has is we're part of the Kaseya family. And the Kaseya family, of course, is a group of products that make IT management easier. We try to make it easier. So we're able to take some of those products and use them in the backup world to self-heal backups, to go out and do things. We can do compliance checks, things like that, right? So for customers, our businesses out there that are looking to the future and how they make life a little bit easier for a kind of a stretched IT team, or for companies like NetSync who are doing this for businesses, the ability to take products that are linked together, interlinked together, are connected under one umbrella that can handle all the remote, the remote management of devices, the documentation, the compliance, the security, the backup and DR. It makes the whole idea of business continuity much easier. We used to kind of compartmentalize all of those different products and all those different things that an IT team has to do on a daily basis. And I think we're trying to get away from that simply because it's so much easier to try to do it with one kind of a one vision in terms of how it's all going to be managed within the company. So I think that's one of the advantages we have, and I think it's one of the advantages of NetSync, or using a company like NetSync is for businesses, is that you can handle a lot of things for your customers.
So, a lot of our public sector customers are struggling because they don't have a lot of people kind of extending on what you were describing. And so they really have to learn, and they need help, right? They need somebody to come out here to help educate them, to provide them, and augment them in such a way that they can use solutions to do a whole lot more with less, especially around business continuity, which isn't top of the mind all the time. This kind of caught them by surprise with the pandemic. So that's one of the things we're seeing, and it really kind of extends on what you're saying. And that kind of leads me into this idea. You and I've talked about assurance before. So what is recovery assurance?
Mark, great question. And it's really very simple. Recovery assurance is ability to know that you can bring a workload up and access it, and it's running, available to your end users, and they can do their work on that workload in whatever period of time your company has set as the the time that it has to be available. And some companies that may be, hey, if this application goes down, we have to have it up and running in 5 minutes. Others say, hey, maybe they get an hour. But whatever that is, you need to be able to orchestrate a test, schedule a test, and have tests running on a regular basis so that you know that you can meet the SLAs that executive management has set. That's what we look at as recovery assurance. And I think it's critical that you're able to do that on data that's your local data centers. Also critical to do it on that replicated data that may be in a cloud location or a secondary data center that you use for DR. And I think what's happened over the last month has absolutely proven that every business should be thinking about recovery assurance moving forward.
Yeah, it really is a good idea, especially since a lot of ransomware bad actors are actually taking advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so where people might think, oh, they're humans, they'll let up a little bit. The reality, harsh reality of it is they're actually increased the attacks.
Yeah.
They've had a lot of impact, especially on those that really weren't prepared for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we talk about recovery assurance, we mention, hey, making sure an application's available. But part of that is also being able to spin up a workload and test it for malware, and knowing that it's free of malware, because that's going to be just as critical as making it available. So it's a big opportunity for businesses right now. Maybe they've seen where their holes are, and they can actually go out and fill them now. They certainly have the attention of executive management, knowing how critical it is to be able to have a working business continuity plan. And I think it's a great opportunity for a company like NetSync and one like Kaseya and Unitrends to help those businesses succeed in the future.
Well, it's both a scary and very interesting subject. I'm sure we could talk about it all day. But I really want to thank you for your great insights on new threats to business continuity, and really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Mark. Look forward to doing it again in person someday where we can sit side by side, but that may be a few months down the road.
It'll probably be a few months, but I look forward to that as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.